Well, hello, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo. And as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work. Let's get open for business here. Let's wake up the football gods as we go here. It is Sunday night, another Sunday without football. But, guys, it's another weekend getting closer. We are only 73 days, 22 hours, 24 minutes, and 30 seconds away from kickoff of the 2019 season. And you know what? I've talked to Miss Jackie, Miss Anita, I've talked to Philip. All these Dallas Cowboy fans, it's like, my God, there's so much negativity about our quarterback, Dak Prescott. You know, you got the USA Today trying to get clicks saying, it's time to trade Dak Prescott. Because, you know, things happen when you think that that quarterback's supposed to take another step and everything else. You know, there's articles out there about, could the Dallas Cowboys lose Amari Cooper and things. You know, it's all about the Dallas Cowboys. Well, you know what? Let's turn the tables here a little bit. As opposed to what those people actually have done, who have made these assumptions and things like that with nothing to back it up. I'm going to go a different route here. I'm going to talk about Carson Wentz. Now understand, when I talk about Carson Wentz, this is not personal. It's just business here, because I'm trying to run a business here. When I talk about Carson Wentz, it's not that I hate Carson Wentz. It's not that I'm, trying to belittle Carson Wentz except for his ability, as opposed to what a lot of people do to my quarterback. Because when an idiot says, well, Dak Prescott, if it weren't for the Dallas Cowboys, would end up being a mall cop, and I say, he has a master's degree and he's going for his doctorate, becoming a doctor. Oh, well, it's not like he's a real doctor, like a medical doctor. Understand, maybe you're the guy that needs to get a little more education. Do you understand what a doctorate means? That means you have a PhD. You are a doctor. Now, maybe it might be a little different being a brain surgeon versus, say, a psychologist. In order to practice, you have to be a PhD. That means you go through and get your first degree. Then you get your master's degree. Then you go to 4 more years of school to get your doctorate. Clearly, somebody's with a master's degree, typically, unless they want to be a mall cop for the fun of it, they're not going to be a mall cop. See, that's a personal attack. You understand the difference? When you say, because he wants to get paid, like the other quarterbacks, that he's a fat, greedy pig, that's a personal attack. Just say it. But I'm not doing a personal attack. I'm going after Carson Wentz's ability. Because everybody puts Carson Wentz up here, Dak Prescott down here. And they scrutinize every single thing about my quarterback, Dak Prescott. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Y'all need to pump the brakes on Carson Wentz, the MVP candidate. The MVP candidate till he got hurt. And when you look at, let's, boy, did I mess this up here? Let me go back over here. When you look at, let's look at Carson Wentz's numbers here. Because I always say, things on the surface look different than if you scratch the surface. You could dig a little deeper into the numbers. And I know, it's funny, and I'm going to ask you ones that say, forget about the statistics. Statistics don't mean anything. Okay. Then you talk about wins. Well, the wins don't mean anything. So I'm trying to understand, what is it that means something to you guys out there? Because, you look at Carson Wentz, and we all know, let's see if I can get the statistics to show. When you look at his numbers, they are impressive. He is 23-17 in victories. Now, we understand that he didn't play any playoff games because he was injured. Nick Foles came in and did that. 23-17, hey, he's above 500. A lot better than, say, Kirk Cousins, who's 3 games below 500. And you look at, over the course of 3 years, 10,152 yards. That's really good. Touchdown passes, 70 versus 28 interceptions. Those are all really good numbers. And I'm not saying that he's not a good quarterback or even a great quarterback. But he's not as good as everybody says. Because we're going to dig right now deeper into these numbers. I want you to understand that in 2017, his MVP season, it's not really as good as you think. Because when it came to playing teams with winning records, he was only 500 in 2018. Excuse me, 17. And when you look at the teams that he won against, when they got onto that streak, understand they were playing a fourth place schedule. Now understand, let me make sure I clarify this. Beating anybody, a win is a win in the NFL. I don't care if it's against the Doo-Doo Browns when they were 0-16. It's still a victory. But pump the brakes a little bit because let's look at the schedule of who they beat and who they lost to. In 2017, they beat the Redskins. 7-9. They beat the Giants 3-13. They beat the Chargers, winning record 9-7. They beat the Cardinals 8-8. They beat Carolina, second team that had a winning record 11-5. Again, they beat the Redskins 7-9. San Francisco 6-10. Denver 5-11. They beat the Cowboys, or excuse me, he beat the Cowboys 9-7, and the Bears 5-11, and the only other team that they beat with the winning record was the Rams 11-5. So clearly, you weren't exactly beating the cream of the crop. And if we look at last year, the teams that Carson Wentz led teams beat, only one team had a winning record. That was the Indianapolis Colts. And that was before the Colts turned it on because that was early in the season. They were 10-6. The other 4 games that Carson Wentz won last year, let me say this again. The other 4 games, New York Giants at 5-11. Jacksonville Jaguars 5-11. New York Giants 5-11. And the Washington Redskins 7-9. Combined win-loss total for those teams that they beat, 32-48. Now, he beat the teams he was supposed to beat. Now, when he faced better competition, these are all the games he lost last year. Tennessee 9-7, Minnesota 8-7, Carolina 7-9, Dallas Cowboys 10-6 twice, New Orleans 13-3. The only year that he actually had a winning record, or excuse me, a 500 record against teams with a winning record was his rookie year. He beat the Cleveland Browns, the 3-13 Bears. They did beat the Steelers that were 11-5. They beat the Minnesota Vikings that were 8-8. They beat the Atlanta Falcons that were 11-5. They beat the Giants that were 11-5 and the Cowboys that were 13-3. So if you go through the victories that Carson Wentz has had, and be it 23, 15 of those teams, their combined scores or combined records are losing, 171 and 197. Now, when it comes to playing teams with a winning record, he's 8-22 in his career. 8-22. And I ask you this, and I know I'm going to be deemed a hater, and I know all you Eagle trolls are going to come through and tell me I'm crazy, because we always hear about Dak Prescott's 13 or 14 comeback victories and say, oh, that means nothing, because he keeps the game so close that, he has to come back. But there's a lot to be said for dealing with pressure and being able to brush it off and focus instead of wetting your pants. I'm not saying Carson Wentz wet his pants, but I ask you this, because when the 2017 season came around, they were coming out of the basement. Nobody thought anything about the Philadelphia Eagles until basically it was too late. They got on a roll. I'm not belittling it because winning a Super Bowl is hard as hell. It's been a nightmare for us to get back there. So I'm crediting them for winning that Super Bowl. But understand they were playing a fourth place schedule. And I ask you, what pressure filled game has Carson Wentz really been in? What win or go home game has Carson Wentz ever played in? Now, I will say, I'm a homer. But I got to say, and I remember saying this when we were 3-5. I said, you want playoffs? I said, from here on out, every week is a playoff game for the Dallas Cowboys. Win, there's hope for next week. Lose, chances are you're out. Every week, the Dallas Cowboys basically played a playoff game the second half of the season. Going to Philadelphia against the defending Super Bowl champions. The Cowboys got to win. Pressure filled. They go on the road to Atlanta. Got to win. Played against the Eagles at home in a shootout in overtime. They got to win. They play New Orleans. Some would say the best team in football. They got to win. And so on and so on. And got to win in the playoffs against the Seahawks. I dare say that those were all pressure must-win games, and Dak Prescott stood up to that competition. And we're talking about good competition. We're not talking about, little sisters of the poor teams. We're talking about the Eagles, two-time defending Super Bowl champions. We're talking about the New Orleans Saints. We're talking about great competition, and the Cowboys persevered. So pump the brakes a little bit on this anointing oil that you have for Carson Wentz. I think he might be pyrite. And if you don't know what pyrite is, it's fool's gold. I look for your comments here, Eagle fans, because I know you're going to be coming after me. But all I ask is this. That's my argument why I say Carson Wentz isn't everything that we think. You give me, instead of saying you're just a hater or an asshole or something like that, you give me the reason and back it up why I'm wrong. I'd love to discuss it with you. And if it's a good enough response, I'll put you over here on the screen and we'll have a little debate about it. How about that? I'm going to challenge you. And I guarantee that somebody out there, one of the talking heads, will be using these numbers and statistics. Just watch. All right, guys. I feel great. I'm tired as hell. And I'm going to bed. I will see you guys first thing in the morning for Don't Sleep on the Dallas Cowboys. I'm Mark Holmes with Cowboy Joe Boo, and I'll see you soon.